Oh, hello. I was just having a look at this Gil Evans album. Lovely thing this is. Recorded in the late 50s, I think, around about 1958. I mean, Gil Evans, of course, is one of the great arrangers of jazz and probably 20th century music. I was just having a little bit of a research. There's quite a lot of text on here. I'm always reading about proper music. I'm always reading about jazz and prog and all the good stuff. This is what we cover on this channel, don't we? Good stuff like that. But of course, if I was to do a video now on Gil Evans, it wouldn't get the views, would it? No, you see, this is the whole thing with a channel like this. We've got to push those buttons. But when you push the buttons, what happens is people get upset, right? And they get angry and they put into my comments their sort of annoyance and bile that the video has produced in them. They get very angry. But what they don't realise is that those sort of videos that make you angry, they're supposed to mask the entertainment of it. You come here to be angry. Well, on this video, I thought I'd try and deal with that as a sensible adult, because I have caused these things. You know, I've come online and I've said this band's overrated, or this is the worst of this, or this is no good, and done all that. And people get angry because when you criticise things that they like, they get angry and they put comments up. And so what I've done, I've gone through all the comments, all of them, and I have sort of pulled out the main things that people who watch this channel put in the comments, the sort of criticisms, and I've ranked them from 10 to 1. So this video is going to be called 10 Things My Viewers Get Wound Up About When I Say ... and then this is the thing I say. So I'm going to say the 10 things, and then what we'll have is we'll have like the normal wind up that you get times 10, but at least I could address it, you know, and maybe create a little bit of peace amongst the community when they see my reasons for doing what I'm doing. I think that's very important. So let's put the proper music aside and, you know, we'll do this video now. And just before I kick off into this, I just want to say that if you like these videos and you like what I do, then could you press a like now? And I must admit that when I look at the viewers for this channel, probably many people here who are complaining like this, they're complaining, but they have no right to complain because they haven't subscribed. So if you could subscribe now at the start of the video, because apparently this is what you should do. I don't normally do this, but I just thought I should do it now to see if I can get more subscriptions out of this video. So can you press it now? Yeah, go on, press the subscribe button. It won't hurt you. You can always unsubscribe in a month or two when you realise it was a big mistake. Oh, it was a big mistake, that was. I can't believe it. Andy was there. Beginning of the video, he's asking about subscriptions, right at the beginning. And I fell for it, I pressed it. And then what happened? He started appearing in my feed. You know, oh, it was awful. So I've unsubscribed. Oh, close shave that was. A close shave. But I promise you, a close shave is better than no shave at all, isn't it? That's what I always say. So if you could subscribe right now, that would be great, because most of you aren't subscribed. I've said that before, haven't I? So I've been watching other YouTubers and they're telling me how to have a better YouTube. And they said, I've got to say it at the beginning, you see. Now, you're probably sat there going, this is a bit frustrated now because I want him to get onto the list. I'm here for the list. I want to hear what people have been saying to him that's been winding him up. The things that when they complain about Andy, what have they been saying? So shall we just kick in straight away? So at number 10, I have this. If I say this, people get wound up. And it is. The Beach Boys are not the Beatles. Stop saying that the Beach Boys are the American Beatles. If I say how great the Beatles are, don't go, yeah, but also the Beach Boys are really great, okay? Now, I like the Beach Boys. I don't mind a bit of Beach Boys every now and then. They're okay. It's not my first sort of music, first port of call, but I do enjoy them. I own 2 Beach Boys albums. One's called Pet Sounds, and the other one is called The Beach Boys' Greatest Hits. Now, if I had a choice and I could only keep one, I would have to go, well, I could listen to all these incredibly catchy, beautifully constructed pop songs that they did in the early 60s, like Get Around, you know, and California Girls, you know, and all that type of stuff. I just love all that. I could keep that album, or I could keep the other album that I only bought because it's supposed to have Pet Sound. It's supposed to be this great album, but really it's just a deep trawl through Brian Wilson, you know, getting session musicians to overdub weird sounds on a bunch of songs that sound like 1950s pastiches, and there's only really two good songs on there. One's God Only Knows, and the other one is Wouldn't It Be Nice? Wouldn't Be Nice is like a sort of okay Beach Boys single, and then there's a whole bunch of stuff on there, and it's supposed to have influenced the Beatles for 5 minutes, you know, made them make Sergeant Pepper, but I'm pretty sure Brian Wilson only made Pet Sound because he wanted to be like the Beatles. And that's the whole thing, isn't it? Brian Wilson belonged to a band that was out of date by the time they came out, hadn't they? You know, rock and roll came out in America, and then in America, rock and roll very quickly fell into sort of the middle of the road morass of, you know, doo-wop and surf songs, and, you know, and all those old styles of music that have been in America, it sort of all started to fall back on. And so that, you know, the Beach Boys started off as a bit of a sort of rock and roll take on barbershop quartets, didn't it? But they exemplified, you know, having fun and running around, you know, on beaches, and that was a nice thing, and it was some catchy stuff there, you know. It's all right, but that's what it is. But little did they know in America that over here in the UK, we had bands like the Rolling Stones and the Beatles, and then the Who, and we had guitarists coming out like Eric Clapton and Jeff Beck, right? We were going somewhere else. We were interested in going, round, round, get around, I get around, ooh, darling, I get around, you know, that's what we were into. We were doing, I mean, what you gonna pick, right? Don't make out the Beach Boys are like the Beatles. They're definitely not like the Rolling Stones. They're definitely not like the Who. They're definitely not like the Kinks. Don't think that in that period of time, America, United States of America, that you had anything to compete with in terms of us, our British bands. Of course you did when it came to all the blues and jazz. You beat us hands down when it even comes to soul and all that stuff. Ray Charles, it beats us hands down. I ain't going to say it doesn't. But when it comes to rocking, right, and when it comes to laying the groundwork for like progressive rock and heavy rock and all that sort of stuff, it was our bands that did it. And you know the most important band is the Beatles. And when the Beatles went to America in 1964, they took the place over, and they became the most dominant band, and they released masterpiece after masterpiece, right? And all the Beach Boys did was release some nice catchy hit singles, right? And, you know, Jan and Dean also did. You had a whole bunch of other groups doing that, right? They're not the Everly Brothers. That's the real deal, right? And the Everly Brothers are the real deal. And then they made Pet Sounds, which was a nice exploratory album at the time. Yes, it was. They weren't even The Doors. They weren't even Love. They weren't even Moby Grape. There's a whole bunch of incredible bands there. They weren't the Byrds. So, I stand by that one. The Beach Boys are not the Beatles. Totally different category of not as goodness. Right, number 9. This caused me a problem, and this is one of the ones where I'm probably going to have to put my hand up, and unlike the first number 10, you know, the Beach Boys one, I'm probably going to have to apologise this one, but a lot of people got very angry when I said that the Velvet Underground were created by Andy Warhol, right? I said that on a video, and it elicited not a whole bunch of people. Now, I get corrected all the time, and I like that. You know, that's good that people say, oh. And if they'd have come in saying, Andy, I don't think they did, because I think the Velvet Underground were already going as a band, and I think then Andy Warhol sort of discovered them, and he promoted them, but they were already in existence. He didn't form them, he didn't create them, he more discovered them. But I'm pretty sure if he hadn't discovered them, we wouldn't be talking about them. But that's not by the by. Technically, what you were saying was wrong, and I admit it was. Velvet Underground apparently were already going, right, when Andy Warhol discovered them. Which makes sense, really, even without knowing that fact. If I'd have, logically thought of it. I can't imagine Andy Warhol, holding auditions and waiting for people to turn up. John Cale walks in and goes, I'm looking for a violin player from Wales. You're the man. Brilliant. You can join the band. Then Lou Reed comes in. What you like? Can you, you look good in dark sunglasses. Have you got some songs? Oh, that's pretty good. You can join the band. And then Maureen Tucker comes in. And what do you do, Maureen? Yeah, who cares? Join the band. Right, so I can't imagine that would have happened. They must have got together already, hadn't they? But the thing is that when I said this, the anger... How can you say this about them? They're the best band in the world. How do you don't know anything about that. You don't know anything about this. You're a terrible man. You're going to see this is the theme, If I make a mistake like this, you shouldn't be doing the YouTube. You shouldn't be on the internet talking. You should be silenced. People need to go around your house and kill you and tie you up and then tell everybody that you're a bad person and put out adverts in all the national music papers saying, don't listen to this man. He knows nothing, especially about Velvet Underground. Now, why? Why does Velvet Underground elicit that, right? And yet, if I'd have made the same mistake about the Bee Gees, would it have elicited the same sort of thing? I think not. You know why? Because the Velvet Underground are the epitome of pretentiousness. It's not prog that's pretentious. It's the Velvet Underground. And people who like the Velvet Underground, they're pretentious too. And I'm going to say it right now. Okay? Nobody bought that album when it came out. Nobody listened to it. Right, and then when a bunch of art students in the 70s felt like they wanted a bite of the rock and roll apple, but they weren't Led Zeppelin, they couldn't stand up looking like that or playing like that, they hunted around and they found a whole bunch of bands like the Stooges and New York Dolls, and specifically the mother of it all, the Velvet Underground. Oh, we could do that. What do you mean? Well, you don't have to prance around the stage. You don't have to look cool. We've got to do wear black, put the dark sunglasses on, and strum one chord over and over again, and then sing about how you're a drug addict or something like that. And everyone will think it's art, because Andy Warhol was involved, and that's the whole point, isn't it? If they hadn't have had Andy Warhol, they would have been a cruddy average band. That's the bottom line. But Andy Warhol knew how to market stuff. He saw in the future. Andy Warhol was an artistic genius, but that's another thing. But I do admit I did get it wrong. And to all you pretentious Velvet Underground fans there that get really angry when, because there's an Achilles heel and all this, and because, the Velvet Underground are not that great. I said it. I got their albums when I was a kid. I listened to them. Lou Reed's a good songwriter. He's a good songwriter, but that's what he was. He was like a sort of standard, not a rock and roll writer. He was a Tim Pan Alley songwriter. And those songs are really good. John Cale was a really great musician. That is, I'm now talking myself around, because really the only reason I said that about Velvet Underground being pretentious was just to annoy them again. It's not Velvet Underground I'm having to go at. It's the Velvet Underground fans. These old blokes who thought they were cool in the 1980s when they're at college because they had a Velvet Underground poster on their wall. And then they've grown up. They've not grown up enough to be able to, have anybody else have an opinion about it because they're grumpy old men. And I come out and say that and they get really angry. And before you know it, they're telling me I should not be speaking. That was number 9. You get the idea now. We're 15 minutes in. This is going to be about 3 hours long, isn't it? So at number 8, remember there's more vitriol and bile as we go through, and there's more of them as well. So this is each one as we go up. There's more people, getting wound up that I've said this thing. So at number 8, many members of my audience get wound up when I say, no, sorry, I was going to be clever then and it didn't work. Many of my viewers, they exhibit their disgust when I don't mention a certain band that they think should be on the list. This is like Andy Edwards YouTube 101. This is, So recently I did the 10 greatest progressive rock albums, but I did it in a different way. I actually went over to the Progressive Rock Archives, where they literally have thousands and thousands of numerical reviews of all the progressive rock bands. I mean, even Pete Pardo would not know all these progressive rock bands, right? They just go on, and then these progressive rock anal retentive nerds have gone on there and they've ranked them all. And so when you go on there, you can then go across the whole site and you can get a ranking of all the albums that have been ranked, the probably a million albums, right? And so if you take the top 10, that is your highly qualified, knowledgeable, progressive rock audience from all over the world saying we think this. That's like almost like an objective list. And what I did is I went through that list and then I critiqued it and put in what I wanted to put in. But there was 2 bands I missed off that list. Right now, when I did the list and I finally got my list, I thought that looks pretty objective now. You know, I put in the ones that I wouldn't have in, and so it's half my opinion, the subjective of Andy Edwards' opinion, and half of this objective opinion. If you come to my YouTube, there we have that now. That represents something. And when I finished it, I thought, I haven't got Gentle Giant on there. Now, I love Gentle Giant, but I thought, I haven't got Gentle Giant on there. And also, I haven't got Van der Graaf Generator on there. Now, I don't like Van der Graaf Generator, okay? I just don't like him. Now, that doesn't mean I can't be objective. I think they should go on the list. On one of my other progressive rock lists, I actually put Van der Graaf Generator on the list. So I accept. So I'm there, right? And it's a bit like when you've got a gig, right? This has happened to me many times. You've got a gig and you're going in your own car and you want to take your drum kit and you want to take all the bits of your drum kit and then you pack it all up and then you put it in the boot and then you're left with a small 8-inch rack tom, right? And you're also left with a cymbal and a stand, right? And it doesn't matter what you do, you want them in, but you can't get them in. So you take other stuff out and you repack it, but it just won't fit in. And then with sadness, you go, 8-inch Tom, I can't take you today. And you put him back in my studio. And second China cymbal, you're a bit superfluous on this one. I mean, it's only a pub gigs doing Carpenter songs, but, you know, I felt 2 Chinas would go down well. And so you pack, then you put that away, right? And then you drive off in the knowledge that you've missed off those 2 things, right? That's exactly how I felt when I didn't put Van der Graaf Generator and Gentle Giant on that list. But, as I always say, which ones would you take off? Yes, Genesis, Jethro Tull, Rush, Pink Floyd. We'll get to those bands in a minute. We'll get to them. I tell you, we will. Right, so, now, obviously a list can't contain everybody. Right? It can't. But the fact is that I ain't got a problem saying I would have put that on the list. There, the people who do, I love them. That's great. You're engaging with the channel on the level it should be engaged at. You know, I'm interested in your opinion, Andy, and this is my opinion. Oh, isn't this good? It creates a community. I myself would have put Egg on there. Yes, you know, but not like, where's Egg? You're an idiot. I cannot believe you haven't put Egg on the list. What is wrong with you? Have you got something wrong in the head? Are you a murderer? Are you a rapist? Why haven't you put Egg on the list? Right, there's egg on your face now, isn't there, for not putting Egg on the list? They don't even come up with anything that creatively good. Right, you shouldn't be allowed to do this. You should not have an opinion about this if you haven't put Egg on the list. If there's no Egg on there, right, it shouldn't be there at all. Take it down now. Close your YouTube down now. It's absolutely out of order. These people... This is a state of mind that I think is going to go through this. There's certain people that when you don't agree with them, they can't just be happy that we've disagreed. They have to try and shut you up. Now, this actually is embedded in our politics at the moment. I think this is the big problem because I think there's a whole bunch of people on both sides of the political spectrum that think this is a good way of going about things. I don't like what you say, shut up, you know. And I think what's happened is that we used to have some sort of social codes where you knew you couldn't do that. You know, you might be thinking, oh, this bloke's an idiot, but you had it's called manners. In the old days, we had manners. You know, no, I'm not too sure whether I agree with that, but you're entitled to your opinion, and I respect you for having it. I support you having this opinion, but let's agree to disagree. Let's agree to disagree. That should be the moral code by which we go. But people aren't like that anymore, are they? They can't stand it. You know why? I tell you why. Because they have grown up. Yeah? I don't know. I'm in the middle of a YouTube video. So this will be in the YouTube video about the bacon sandwich now. So my wife's not even asking if I want a bacon sandwich. I quite like a bacon sandwich at this point. This is what happens when you try and do videos at home. If you're wondering why I'm doing video at home, it's because I'm not very well at the moment. I've got cold and my studio's very, very cold. And I did spend a day up there doing all sorts of YouTube videos and I came back with a very bad chest. So I'm attempting to do one at home. And my idea here was to get this white wall behind and put some of the stuff that I'm talking about behind me. But if that's not there, it's because it didn't work. But if it is there, then you can see that little experiment in video graphics has worked, and I might use that in the future. Anyway, that's beside the point. What was I even talking about? Oh yeah, being all nice to each other in politics and all that, and not getting angry because someone's changed your opinion. I mean, that's all bloody obvious, isn't it, really? So those of you who want to, criticise when I miss something, but please, you don't have to get all disgusted, and you just don't have to say that I haven't got a right to doing the list, and all that type of stuff. Now, you're going to say it's all subjective, and we're going to get to that later on this list as well. But shall we move on anyway? This is one that seems to upset absolutely not everybody, but 90% of the people who watch my channel get really upset by this. And it's when I say that Kraftwerk are more influential than the Beatles, right? Now, I want to tell you how I came across this realization and revelation, right? Is that I had not really thought about Kraftwerk that much. I was working on a top 10 and I thought they should be considered for something. It's like, yeah, I haven't really talked about Kraftwerk. They should be considered because they're quite groundbreaking, aren't they? And so I went and put one of their albums on. I put on Trans-Europe, I can't even remember what it's called now, Trans-Europe Express or whatever it is. Anyway, I put this album, it's made in the mid-70s. I put it on, it sounded like it'd been made now. And then I realised that everything that Kraftwerk was doing had influenced music profoundly. In fact, you could probably take any Kraftwerk tune made after the third or fourth album, made after Autobahn, and you could sample it and you could get someone to rap over it or sing over it, and you'd have another hit record. And I thought, my God, they are massively influential. But the problem with Kraftwerk is what they're influential on is all the stuff that we hate. I hate it too. All the stuff that we hate about modern music. So I'm with you on that. I shot a video yesterday where I made the argument that this type of modern music made by machines and all that stuff is not actually music. So I'm with you on this. But Kraftwerk were actually very competent musicians that were working in, quite an avant-garde, krautrockish improvisational rock band in the early 70s. Taking a whole bunch of philosophical ideas. Now, one of the things that's interesting is that once they did what they did, it did change music so much that it actually almost like destroys popular music. Right? Think about that. Now, the idea that if you took music out there now, any music, right, and look at it, and ask yourself, where's the Beatles influence there? And there will be a Beatles influence there, without a doubt. But the idea that Kraftwerk has influenced less it's just not true, basically. Now, when I was doing my research, I hadn't thought this. I was just thinking the obvious conservative, I haven't really thought about it, knee-jerk, that the Beatles are the most influential band of all time. And so, but when I Googled Kraftwerk, every single article was very clever people saying that Kraftwerk were more influential than the Beatles. It wasn't my mad idea. It's an idea that's out there. And I read the articles, and you see, I know this sounds a bit weird, right? And this is not a fashionable thing in today's world. But if I come across an opinion and I listen to it, it sort of makes sense. I sort of adjust my opinion based upon it, and I can change my mind, you see. And I change my mind based upon this new opinion. I try and counter it, but if I can't come up with a decent argument against it, and in my guts it feels right, I will adjust my opinion. And the reason I do this, and this is a bit bonkers, is because I don't actually think that I know everything, right? The only thing I'm pretty sure that I know is that I don't know much. So what I do is I listen, take in all these ideas. I got this from a philosopher called Socrates. You know old Socrates? And they didn't like him much, he said, who was it that said, was it the Oracle of Delphi that said that Socrates was the wisest man in Greece because he knew that he knew nothing? Okay? Well, I'm like Socrates. I'm like the Socrates of the music YouTubers. You know, there's no arrogance there. I'm modest. And you know, when somebody comes on with a counter opinion, I listen to it and I can take it on board, right? And so I thought, when all this is sort of true, and then the video came out and they all started hating me. And this one person said, very comically, how can you say that? Depeche Mode has much more influence on modern music in terms of creating electronic music and dance music than Kraftwerk ever had. Obviously, a Depeche Mode fan. So I thought, is that the case? So I Googled Depeche Mode. And I went to their Wikipedia. And in the first paragraph, the lead singer, is it Gar, what's his name? Dave Gar, is it? I don't know. Somebody Gar. On the first thing he said, he goes, there would be no Depeche Mode without Kraftwerk. I rest my case. You're wrong. People who said that, stupid. Right, shall we move on to number 6? Right. There's a whole contingent out there of hardcore progressive rock fans, and they think they know this stuff. You know, they don't listen to the obvious stuff. They're there listening to things like Armandul 2 and, I don't know, PFM, and they're listening to things like Griffin and they're proper progressive rock fans, and they get really angry. They're the ones who say, I can't believe you haven't put egg on the thing. It's those there. There's a ton of them watching this, and they get really annoyed if I say that either Pink Floyd or Rush are prog. Basically, prog bands like Pink Floyd and Rush being described as prog really annoys this types. Right, so how do I counter this? I don't really know, really. Shall we try this? Yeah, just do that like that. Yeah, let's see, we can have a look at that, and then, yes, oh God, yes. Yeah, oh, yes, yes, oh, God, yes, they go, I don't know, stupid people, stupid people. So, I rest my case. You might not think they are, but Google does. What's Google got to do with it? How can Google be more important than my opinion? Well, what Google is this incredibly vast AI-driven search engine that scans every single website all over the world, and it gathers all this big data up like this, and it gathers all the stuff about progressive rock. Give me all the stuff about progressive rock you've got right. Now give me all the stuff about Pink Floyd you've got right. Now let's have a look at both of them. I'm going to look at 1 million websites, and it does seem, taking every single parameter that I can muster with my big AI brain and my big data circuits that no human being would ever be able to calculate, and it seems like Pink Floyd are progressive rock. Can you do it for Rush? Okay, then let's get. I've still got the progressive rocks today. Let's get it for Rush. Oh my God! They made 2112 and they made Hemispheres, and they were pioneers of progressive metal, and they played it on time signatures and sang about wizards and Kubla Khan. You know, had like tricky bits in there, and they got long hair and they wear flowy white clothes. I think, yes, Rush are prog. Right? They might not be prog enough for your tastes. Right? But then we get in sort of the Taliban of prog. These people are in the Taliban of prog, aren't they? You know, the Taliban, they're not just Muslims. They're really, really, really Muslim. You know, that type of thing. And these fighters in the name of God. Often, what happens is you put a load of them together, they all gang up and they go, "You're not proper. You're not a proper person. You don't believe it like we believe it way more than you," and they kill that person. And eventually they look at the next person, and eventually this comes down low, smaller and smaller and smaller, doesn't it? And when that happens, when we end up with the archetypal prog fan, that person who's out there, because that's what they want to be, you see. They want to prove They're right. They're the leader of the Taliban of prog. This person is, and when you get to that one person, and they've eradicated every other prog band and every other prog fan, right? What will their favourite band be? Well, I went to AI and used those incredible circuits to have a look at this, and it calculated it, and it actually worked out who this is, right? And it's a guy called Barry Muggle who lives in Croydon in the UK, right? And he's 58 years old, right? And it went into his record collection to find out what his favourite band was. And you know what it was? I tell you now, it's Fleetwood Mac. Right, let's move on. At number 5, I have on the list of things that my viewers get really irate about is when I praise Oasis. I had a couple of videos when I found out Oasis were reforming for next year. I had a couple of videos where I tried to argue, you know, what I thought. I think Oasis have written some good songs, and I think Liam's a great frontman who's got charisma. I know me saying that now is going to upset me. Yeah, they're not Return to Forever. Obviously, they're not Return to Forever. Anyway, what I've done here, because I knew I should do this a couple of times, is let's pull one of these comments out that somebody puts forth. So I won't name who this is, right? But this is from a guy called Barry that lives in Croydon in the UK. And he wrote this. He put, "For the love of Bowie, will you stop giving Oasis any more mention on your channel? The most talentless dogshit band that had ever existed." Nah, that can't be true. The most talented dogshit band that's ever existed. Surely that's the Lighthouse Family. And then he puts really short sentence here. "They are tossers." All right. Their music is derivative of better bands, and they are the next generation status quo. When I got to that before, why has he brought status quo into it? What have they done? Status quo, they sat there rocking around the world, you know. I like it, I like it, I like it, I like it. Yeah, what's happening? This bloke says that that you're. What did he say? That Oasis music's derivative. Yeah, it probably is. They're a little bit like the Beatles, aren't they? Well, it's a bit more like Slade, isn't it, than the Beatles? Yeah, but not a bad band. This is status quo talking now. Not a bad band, no, isn't it? Francis Rossi's more grumpy than that. Not a bad band, no. I'll give it to them. And they said that they're the next generation status quo. Yeah, I don't mind that. Right, so, and then this bloke, Barry, he then goes, although SQ are infinitely more likeable and talented. You know, if I was writing that and I'd made that statement, I thought, oh, that's not fair on status quo. Well, you know, I shouldn't have really said that about status quo. I then delete it and put another band in there that fitted it better. Not compare someone to somebody and then say, oh, I compared it to this band. Now I'm going to not compare it to this band because this band's good. And I'm trying to use this band to prove this band's no good by comparing to a band that I actually think's good. Right? This is the mentality of Barry. They are only touring because they're mediocre catalogue. Well, that's true of every single band in the world. That is true of every. There isn't a band that doesn't tour because of their catalogue. There's no band that does that. You know, it's like you could pick anyone, Rolling Stones, you could pick on Chaka Khan, I've got to think of bands, random bands, any band, the Commodores, I don't know, Spyro Gyra. And, you know, so it's like if the Rolling Stones are going to do their umpteenth tour, they're 80 years old, and they're sat there and they go, do you want to go out on tour? Well, I'm 80 years old. But how much are they offering? Oh, they're offering $15 million a day. Yeah, let's go out then. So what were you thinking of playing on these £15 million a day gigs? Well, I don't know really. How about... do you fancy playing something from our mediocre catalogue? Seems like a good idea. That's what we always do, isn't it? Yeah, let's just rely on that. Well, because I was thinking we could do some free jazz. A little bit in the style of Peter Brotzmann's Machine Gun. We wouldn't have to rehearse. There's no leaping about. It's just making lots of noise. Keith Richards will take to it like a duck to water, really. He will. right? You know, just strum away, but play any old nonsense. Why do we do that? No, I don't think it's going to work. I think because every single band that goes on tour, it's because of their mediocre catalogue. And if they then want to put their mediocre catalogue for sale next year, that's called capitalism, and I applaud them for it. You know, it's like you get to a certain age, right, and you think, right, we're old now. We don't want to go on tour anymore. Barry doesn't want us to go on tour anymore. So what should we do? But I want to leave something for my kids, really. Well, why don't you just sell the songs up? Because we're not going to make that much money. We've only probably got 20 or 30 years to live. And we're not, but they're going to be able to make money over the next 100 years. So they're going to pay more for it because that's the business deal. The reason why all these old people are selling it off, because the time they've got, they can't actually financially make that money that the record companies and publishing companies can do over the next century. That's what that's about. It's got nothing to do with whether Oasis are good or not. They don't care about their fans. Why should they? You know, why should they care? Why should they not care? Does it matter whether they care or not? You know, if you went to see your favourite band and they played really well, and then you went backstage to meet them, and as you walked up to the stage door, you put your ear to your heroes who was sat there turning around to this roadie and saying, I don't really care about my fans, you know. I don't care about them at all. Really? You don't care about... Nah, I don't care what happens to them at all, really. I mean, they could all walk out of here and let's all walk off a cliff as far as I'm concerned, except if they did that, you know, I wouldn't have any tunes and no one would buy my music, would they? And I wouldn't be able to live the lifestyle I have. In fact, I'm actually quite grateful for my fans, and it's illogical that anybody who's got fans wouldn't be grateful for my fans, but they are a bit mad and they do get on my nerves, so it's a bit of a double-edged sword having fans. I would imagine that's more the case, but they've just said this comment here. And then he says, and I don't care about their fans. He's done that thing again. They don't care about their fans, but neither do I. So I agree with him in that respect. So if I was Oasis, I wouldn't care about my fans because I don't care about their fans because they like Oasis. And if I was Oasis, I would not like myself. So I wouldn't like the fans logically following from that statement. I think that's right. But if I did like myself, which is probably the best way to get through life, is to at least like yourself a bit, then maybe because of that I would like my fans for supporting me. I don't know, I don't get confused, you know. I wrote these two sentences, don't really know what they mean now. And then he's put right at the end, use every thumbnail and trick in the book to get views, please, but do not give these F-wits, I won't say that word onto this video, any more thought. Don't tell me what to do, mate. I tell you what, rather than that, why don't you not comment on my YouTube, right? If you subscribe, why don't you unsubscribe and go watch somebody else that will sit there agreeing with what you think about Oasis, right? And while you're at it, try and write a song like Wonderwall. Shall we move on? At number 4, I have got... another thing that even winds my audience up more is when I say that jazz was created by Americans. Who created jazz? Americans did. What sort of Americans? American ones. What do you mean? Black ones? Yeah, black ones. They helped create that style of music known as jazz. Really? Black Americans? Oh yeah. Loads of black Americans created it. Yeah, so why don't you say it was created by black Americans? Because it wasn't. It was created by all sorts of different people. Oh, are you saying other races created it? Could have. Haven't found any evidence that they didn't. So it's just a statement of fact. Yeah, but the white people just copied it off the blacks, didn't they? Don't know. I haven't found any evidence for that. Listen to the music, the influences are pretty spread out. There's all sorts of influences from all sorts of different styles of music. Black people had a really huge role in it, you know, but I don't know. It seems like just silly to treat black people in a certain way because they're black, right? In a way that I wouldn't treat anybody else. You know, I was trying to stick to this moral code I've got where I try and treat everybody the same. And so there's Chinese music, Egyptian music, there's German music, there's Scottish folk music, Irish folk music, right? There's all sorts of different things, even African music, and all sorts of things like that, you know. but there's no white music, there's no yellow music, there's no brown music, so I don't know why there's black music. Now, of course, I've opened up Pandora's back box, and I've opened up for me to say yes, but when we say the word black, we mean, African Americans. And I'm going, yeah, I know, but I'm English. Yeah, but it doesn't matter. You can't talk about it. Yeah, but the black people in England call themselves black, and I don't think they're African Americans because they're English. It's a bit confusing. If you're trying to get to the truth, it doesn't really make sense. Now, this argument's gone back and forth on my channel, and I've probably done more videos trying to counter this than any other one, and trying to prove that I'm not a racist for saying this. I'm just trying to say the actual facts, because it does make you see the history a lot different, to not be making judgments about everybody that was involved in it based upon the colour of their skin. Now, I have actually got one of the sort of comments, so I want to give you an idea what the pushback is here. Right, so here's now, this isn't from Barry in Croydon. I don't know who this is from, but this is a standard sort of retort I would get when I say something like that. You're the most willfully ignorant clown. That's how they start off. You are the most willfully ignorant clown. You know what I'm going to be today? You know what I'm going to be today? Oh, don't chuck that bucket of water over me. What are you going to be today? Then I'm going to put my silly wig on. I'm going to squeeze my nose. And then I'm going to be willfully ignorant. What's that mean? I know. I'm just going to be deliberately ignorant. I don't know anything. You can't do that. You can't be a willful guy. Well, try it out then. Try it out then. Okay, then. Who wrote Beethoven's Fifth Symphony? I haven't got a clue. I'm ignorant of that. Bloody hell, you are. You're an ignorant clown, and you're willfully ignorant. Right. With your lame anti-black code words and projections. Right. I would love to know if I was using anti-black code words and projections, could he advise me on the ones that aren't lame, please? Because I don't really want to use the lame ones. And I can't tell. I got all my I'm being sarcastic, I didn't really. I got all my anti-black code words and projections. Right, which ones shall I use? Well, there's all these really cool ones. I mean, this one's like the Fonz, it's so cool. But these are just lame. I'm going to go for the lame ones. You know why? Because I'm a willfully ignorant clown. Right, so, how dare you? How dare you with your alt-right Procrustean bed talking points against black Americans and our struggles, let alone the music that was born of our struggles. I don't even make sense. I hope I read that right. So when I read this, I thought, with your alt-right Procrustean bed talking points. Procrustean, I thought, is that a crab? That's some sort of crab, isn't it? What's an alt-right crab? What's an alt-right crab? And then I thought maybe what he's saying is that when I'm doing this, I'm just giving too much of that. There's too much of that going on. Is that what he means by it? Too much of that going on? I don't think he did. So I had to Google Procrustean. And I don't remember what it was, and I can't remember what it means now. Oh, I think it means like the conformist view. So there's the alt-right. They just have this conformist view. I'm alt-right, aren't I? And I'm the alternative right. That's what I am, the alternative right. And I've got these. This is a little bit like right-wing talking points. It's that argument, isn't it? You're saying something that sounds right-wing. No, I'm not. I'm saying something that criticises identity politics. But identity politics is left-wing. Why is it left-wing? Left-wing should be about privilege and wealth. Well, it's not anymore. It's about the colour of your skin and who you like to go to bed with. And that's how we rate whether you're privileged or not. And if what you do when you go to bed with someone is not what everyone thinks you should be doing, like the alt-right people, then you are automatically in a position of lower privilege. What? Yeah, that's how it works. I have pushed back on this so much that I'm not going to push back on this one so much. I'm just going to take the mickey out of it. So are you happy with that? Is that okay? How dare you with your alt-right Procrustean bed talking points against black Americans, our struggles, let alone music that was born of our struggle? It doesn't even make sense in the sense, sorry mate, it doesn't make sense. I can't work out what you're trying to say there. I know there's lots of insults in there. And then he puts Kick Rocks. Now, Kick Rocks, I had to look that up as well. Now, Kick Rocks is a tune, it's a tune by a rapper, I can't remember. But there's a guest on there called Little Darky. Is there a rapper called Little Darky? I don't get it all. That sounds really racist to me, calling yourself Little Darky. But he could call himself whatever he wants. But I don't get it. Kick Rocks. So, you know when you get annoyed or you're frustrated and you're going to kick something and then you kick a rock and then you go, I wish I think that's what it means. It's when you do something that's stupid. I don't know. And then he said, there is no identity politics. After using terms like black code words and projections, alt-right Procrustean bed talking points against black Americans and our struggles, let alone, he's just said all that. And then he goes, there's no identity politics. It's just Will Rooley. Now, I think Will Rooley, unless that's another thing that I don't understand, because he's used some very articulate words that I don't know at all, like Procrustean. But I think he means willfully ignorant. And then he put Sundbitter, which I think is Anbitter. He gets so angry now, I can't type properly. Oh, God, this bloke, he's racist, and he's racist. He's really trying to take our music off us. He's trying to take it off us, and no one's going to have it himself. He's going to take it off to Kidderminster. He's going to get the jazz taken off to Kidderminster and make it all white, Now, before they know it, they'll be going up fish and chip shops, and watching EastEnders. It'll be terrible, terrible. Give it us back, you. Give it us back. It's stealing on it, you dirty rotten coloniser. And then at the end, he calls me, he said that I'm a black racist coloniser, you. I like the you at the end. You're just willfully ignorant and bitter and the black racist coloniser, you. Right. I am sorry, right? I am sorry, but that comment is just insane. To me, it's insane. It's like somebody's got the identity politics potion, they've drunk it down, and then they are it's like zombies just pouring out all this insanity. You're a Nazi, you're a fascist, you're a racist, you hate everything, you want to take over the world, you've got a big plan to go out and get it all for yourself, and then when you get it, you're not happy with that, even jazz that we made, you want that jazz for yourself, you're going to make out that you had it, not us, you're going to push us right to the bottom of the pile, and then you'll be King Andy Edwards, king of the world, he owns everything. And he's a racist, and then he'll get his racism and his sexism and his alt-right talking points, and he'll inflict it on the rest of us before we'll know. We'll be in like Stalinist Russia or Pol Pot's Cambodia or China, except that they're all created by the very things that I am pushing right now. But you'll be like the fascists or the Nazis, although fascism did grow out of a union system, and Mussolini was originally a socialist, as was the weird. Well, you're making me confused now. I don't understand it all. I don't really know what fascist is, but I'll call you it. I'll call you on. It's like, it's ridiculous. This all has to go. This all has to go, right? It has to go. What I am saying is that there's a place called the United States of America. And in that country, you've got Americans. And what binds them all together is they're Americans. And they've got a collective history. And in that history, there's some incredible things, but there's some very dark things. And within that, African Americans who were treated so badly and went through this very twisted and not well documented history through slavery, and then out into Reconstruction, and then from there into Jim Crow, and then into the sort of Depression, and then out and the Civil Rights Movement, and that journey that they went through, that, as James Baldwin said, that he wanted to be able to stand up and take its place as American, as someone who had contributed to this history the same as everybody else. And the great art form that comes out of America is jazz. And the people of African ancestry that live in America should be proud to be American, and that their ancestry played such a vital part in the creation of blues and jazz and all the entertainment industry. And it's something I respect very deeply. But they're Americans. And if we want to be together and unified, then you Americans need to see yourself as a unified nation of Americans that live by a common sort of view of the world, which you do, which is why America's so great. But the thing is, the people who are pushing this, they don't adhere to that view of the world, and that's really what's going on. And this video was supposed to be comedy, but that's the truth here, and this isn't very funny, isn't it? So should we move on to number 3? Right. Another thing that winds people up is my head elevation and rocking back and forth. People hate this. Right, so I will deal with this now. Okay. When I'm talking, often what I do is I have to see the camera. I've tried to the other way around, and the videos aren't as good. Now, the reason is because I can see I'm coming up to 50 minutes now, and I don't really want to go over an hour, but I'm timing it about right. Also, I can see my sort of, I can use the shape of the screen better, you see. But the problem is that for it to really work, I would have to look at the camera like that. And when I look at the camera like that, these glasses, right, these glasses here are trifocal lenses. They're a bit dirty, actually. I will use this opportunity to clean them. They're trifocal lenses, and because of that, they're a bit odd. And what I find is if I look at there at the, I'm using my iPhone to film it. If I look there, right there, if I'm looking there now, what happens is, because I've got trifocal lens on, this eye is none of that. My eyes can't focus at all. So if I look at that, it just feels really strange. And also, it would probably give me a headache. I've got double vision. It's just really odd. Any of you older folks that, you know, have these multi-focus wrongs, and so the way these work, if you want to know, if I was reading something like that, I have to look through the bottom, and then if I want to do middle, it's there, and if I want to see something far away, I have to look like that, you see. So I've got this, so my head elevation will change what I'm looking at, right? And because I wore these for about 10 years now, I've got used to working like that, you know. So, you know, it's a sign of being old, you know. But are these tablets, are these the right tablets? Let's see if I can just get them in the right place. Right, and the thing is, even through the bottom of the lenses, which we're working on the short-sighted bit, that's that focus. That is where I have to hold them to be able to read them. That's quite nice. So that is why I have to look there, right, and not look there. Now, the way I think, if you were watching an interview, for example, this is a one-camera shot, imagine that I'm talking to someone there that's sat sort of behind the camera there. That's how I imagine it. I'm talking to them like that. And also, I think that if I was doing that for an hour, it might get a little bit intimidating if I just was to do this. I mean, is that an improvement? Don't think so. Then we have this bit thing we don't. Now, I think this, if you're a YouTuber, there's YouTube energy that you can draw from God, okay? And YouTubers have a certain way of doing it. The ones who don't do this are rubbish YouTubers, but good YouTubers, they have to get into, it's almost like the Sufi whirling dervish, you know. You have to get into a rhythm. And once you're into the rhythm of the world, I'm getting into it now here. And this is how I do it. It's like this. Now, Rick Beato does it like this. He starts going up and down. You know, he starts going up and down like that. Because he's a good YouTuber like that. He starts doing that. But I don't, right? Because I'm a better YouTuber than him. So what I do is I just rock backwards and forwards. And you start to pull the energy up and out and up and out like this. Up and out, and you could feel the flow coming. And then once I'm in this state, I could just keep talking, and it's just right on the wave at the top of this wave. And it's not working then. What was it, Andy? Could you try to do it on purpose? So that's the reason why I do all those. I could try. I could try and not do that, but I have tried and I can't stop it. So that's what it is. Right, here we're to the big ones at the top now, and I really need to have a whole video on these. And I think I have got a whole video on this. I think it's been answered many times. So at number 2, the thing that a big source of ire amongst my fans is them not understanding what overrated means. So I'm going to explain to you what overrated means, right? You got a thing. That thing could be rubbish. It could be mediocre. It could be quite good. It could be really good. It might even be brilliant, right? But if something is rubbish and you say it's mediocre, you have overrated that thing. Okay? Now, what happens with music is most of the stuff in music is not rubbish. It's not even mediocre. It's not even quite good, because there's a natural thing that occurs in the music industry, in the music world, in the entertainment. So there's all good stuff there. It can't be rubbish. So you have a great big glob of good stuff, right? And if I come along and say, I think this is overrated, what's usually happens is because culturally, this thing has latched on to culture and it's held on tight and it's been elevated and being whatever. Okay? Now, this is probably most motivated by me saying that Neil Peart is overrated. Right, so let me tell you what's going on here. And this is a fact, and I don't care what you say. Some kid decides he likes rock music, because we all love rock music. It's happened to us all. You know, you get to a certain age, hear AC/DC, go, oh, I like that, it was brilliant. Then you start checking out all the rock bands. He discovered Led Zeppelin, oh, that's amazing. And he might even be motivated to pick up a guitar or bass or some drumsticks. And you start playing along and you go, da-da-da, oh, this is brilliant, I'm playing along to Back in Black. Let's have another go. Let's have a go at ZZ Top. You know, let's do Sharp Dress Man. Oh, same beat. That's great. Well, let's try this Led Zeppelin then. Shall we try all this Immigrant Song? Oh God, this is hard. Oh, it's the same, sort of the same beat, faster, isn't it? That's really good. Oh, my mate's into another rock band. It's Rush. Let's have a listen to Rush then. You put Rush on. What the hell? I can't play it. It's really, really hard. I can't play it. What do you do? How do you play this? This is bonkers. I don't even know what's going on. Can't even tap my foot to it. Neil Peart must be the greatest drummer of all time. There's no way he cannot be. That drummer in AC/DC, that drummer that was like in Black Sabbath, they're good, but they're not like this. This is the greatest drummer that's ever lived. I haven't heard all the drummers in the world, but I think this one is the greatest because that stuff is so hard to play. That's my world. That's the limit of it. I can't take it any further than that. And I'm not that great a drummer myself, so I don't really know technically what is required. And so I don't really understand people like Elvin Jones or Tony Williams and why they're better, because my own ignorance, you know, my willful ignorance. I like that phrase. As I'm not very well. Even do those pretend Neil Peart feels have puffed me out a little bit. You know, this is the thing. Neil Peart's great. Neil Peart's a great drummer. Brilliant. He did brilliant drumming on Moving Pictures. It's perfect drumming. Right? He's brilliant in Rush. Right? But if you took drummer's ability, technical ability, or achievement, innovation, there's no yardstick where he comes out the best, and yet people say he's the best. And so logically, he's overrated. I'm saying he's very good, but he's not the best. And what I'm saying is there's other rock drummers that are equally as good as Neil Peart, but they don't get put into this hallowed thing up here. And that's what overrated means. Now you now understand what overrated means. We now get to number 1. And the thing that really winds people up more than anything else on a daily basis, are probably getting 30, 40, 50 comments that are based upon this position. And the position is when I say that music, the quality of music is not subjective. I never say it's objective unless I'm being a little bit facetious. But there's an idea out there in the world at the moment, and it's rooted in postmodernism, that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And if you think something's good, it is good. Now, I can't counter that here, because on this channel, right, if there was one idea that is underneath everything I'm doing here, is the countering of that postmodernist idea, a voice that exists in culturally in the world, albeit very small, but a little voice saying, I don't think that's the case. I don't think this subject-object divide is very useful. And I actually think music unifies those two things. And I think the appreciation and the quality is actually a mixture of both. It exposes the division within us, the dialectic tension in us as human beings, that we appreciate beauty and the whole of humanity appreciates beauty. There is once an individual understanding of the world and a communitarian understanding of the world, and the answer's somewhere in between. And it's impossible to say that music is objectively good, and it destroys music by claiming that, but it also destroys art and music, claiming that it is entirely subjective. It's not. I'm looking into the camera now. It's not. End of the video. Done. Finished. Just hit the hour. 10 seconds over, 11 seconds, 12 seconds, 30 seconds. I won't do that for too long. Right, so if you would like to put a like on this video, that'd be really good. If you want to see some more, subscribe. I have a Patreon, the link's down below. I've just put up an hour-long sort of diary of what I was doing last week, and that's for the paid members. And there is also an expanded version of the Weather Report documentary that's coming out, or will probably come out by the time this one comes out, with musical examples that I can't do on YouTube. Don't tell Patreon, but they're in there. So if you want to go and check that out, and that is there without adverts, expanded version for free. You just hook up as a free member. And if you want to help me out financially, you can put a bit of money into my PayPal tip jar. I hope you enjoy this epic hour long. God, I thought this was going to be half an hour. Exploration into the thoughts and minds of my fans, right? Although I don't think these are all fans, especially that bloke who called me a willfully ignorant clown. I don't think he's a fan, and I don't think he's subscribed either. Do you? Nah. Anyway, I better get back to Gil. So, Gil Evans, composer and arranger, music blows, one of the great voices.